What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Danny the Bull, back with another live stream. And the altcoin market is also back. Bitcoin is back. Ethereum is back. The stock market is back. So it's good to be back. Let's see who we got in the house. Sam, what's good, brother? Please say something about Mint Layer, my biggest bag. What do you think? Mint Layer start pumping. We'll see. Mint Layer has been very flat, but I will touch on Mint Layer today. Faceless, what's good, brother? Mcade and Chuck to $1. Let's go. Welcome back. Thank you. It's glad to be back, shaking off some ring rust here. Andreas, what's going on? He's accumulating OMI at these prices. I'll touch on OMI. I get a lot of DMs about OMI and VV, obviously. So I'll talk about them. There's always stuff to talk about. And they just had another shakeup over there. Cash, what's good, brother? LFG, Altseason is near. Yeah, it does feel that way. Ethereum at $2,700, broke $2,700 right before the stream. Bitcoin was hovering just under 105. Mcade was back over 2 cents. So, we're starting to see things move. We've seen some AI coins absolutely rip. Astra up 30% today, up 300% on the month. Aitech up 300% on the month. Hash AI up almost 300% on the month. Top Hat up over 100% from its bottom. So AI is leading the way, which is pretty much in terms in the altcoin space, which is what was expected. And the beauty of sticking around through all this pain that we've suffered through, right? It's been hard. It's not been easy because a lot of us were here, from last cycle. And so a lot of people were front running alts and loading up early. And we had a nice run up in I forget when that was, like the end of 2023, I believe, right into 2024. We had a nice little run up. Since then, it's been a lot of downside, with the exception of a pump in December and January, and then we thought we were back, right? But we've been humbled. But now it feels like we're getting back. So, the beauty of sticking around from then till now is that the market has tipped its hand. Right? We know which sectors are going to pump. We know which teams have been working hard, growing their community, communicating transparently, making moves, building, putting themselves in position to succeed in the coming, what we presume will be an alt season, get that banana zone loading. So we'll see how it plays out. But, we know what to expect from certain projects, right? In terms of who's been putting in the work and who's not. So this is the benefit of the hindsight that we now have. Frank in the house. What's good, brother? Today is a green day and we love green days. I'm much happier on green days. Devve will pump soon. Yeah, I'm going to cover Devve. I do expect big things from Devve. It's that and Metacade are my two biggest holdings, Devve and Metacade. And I'm very bullish on both of them. And Mcade was kind of flat up until, it was just, at a penny hovering around there. And then 2 days ago, it went up 100% in a day. So a lot of people get frustrated because your coin isn't running yet, right? So that speaks to the Mint Layer thing that Sam brought up. People are starting already to get nervous and frustrated. If you're diversified, if you're in a bunch of different projects, don't worry, because the moves will happen rapidly. All right. And, we saw with Mint Layer in 2023 to 2024, it ran alongside Tectum, I would say in February, right? We had gaming, AI run December, January. And then I want to say towards the end, February, March, TET, and then Mint Layer ran alongside that. It's not everything runs at once. Patience is huge and the most important asset that you can have. And, I've seen a lot of people get shaken out of their bags. Sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. I saw people, there's one notable big account that said that they sold all their high risk altcoins, right? Heading into this period of uncertainty because they thought, they could go down more. The thing about it is once they turn fast. So that's why the best thing to do sometimes is nothing. Be patient. If you have conviction in something, if you bought a project because of the narrative, the people running it, the community, and you believe in it still, as long as you're diversified, sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. Harish, what's going on, brother? Russ G in the house. Not many people talking about next bear market, but what price do you see Bitcoin coming back at bottom? That'll be a major talking point. I think it depends on how high it gets. It's going to be interesting, Bitcoin transitioning from, if, that's the thing also, like, are the cycles broken? Or, at some point the 4-year cycle will mean less and less because the impact of the halving, right? Bitcoin is almost, fully in circulation. So at some point, the impact of the halving, it becomes less and less each cycle. It's more, I think, psychological in nature. And now with Bitcoin kind of aligned with traditional markets in the stock market, ETFs, we saw Bitcoin hit a new all-time high before the halving this cycle, something we've never seen before. I'm wondering what Bitcoin will look like in the next bear market and how big the drop will be. So it depends on where the top is. And I would expect it to drop, less than it's dropped in previous cycles. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to watch. Harish, yes. Russ is getting ahead of himself. Let's enjoy this small pump that we've got here, brother. Before we talk about the bear market, we've had enough bearish sentiment around here. B-Dubs in the house. What's good, brother? Good to see you. Also, do you see a pullback on Bitcoin the next few days? I don't know. I mean, so let's pull it up. It's going to be hard to break through, right, to new all-time highs because you're going to be coming up on, it takes multiple attempts to really get through. So I think maybe a little range bound, a few attempts at breaking. What's the high? Like 109? Is that what it is? I forget. Like 106 area is going to be tough here. 106, 106. So we're pushing up against it. And, I don't expect it to burst through. But you look at the stock market, it's ripping. Nvidia was up, I want to say like 15% today. Coinbase added to the S&P 500, which is huge for crypto. That was up like 16% today. S&P 500 is getting close. It's erased all of its. So here it is. I want to say this is like tariff fear. Just I forget when Liberation Day was. But the S&P 500 has basically erased all of the losses from this tariff situation. And look at the NASDAQ. These are going to be at new all-time highs in the next few months. So, a pullback is always, nothing goes straight up. I wouldn't never be surprised by a pullback in crypto, but, we're looking strong. Bitcoin's holding up well, and we're looking good. So let's see how it plays out. Are you okay with liquidation on Mcade? Still seems low. I'm not sure. I know that they're spread out. They have a bunch of different liquidity pools. I feel like Ron looked into this on a stream with me. a couple months ago. We'll look at it again. I don't remember, but we weren't concerned by it. Pro Legendary, missed your streams, bro. I missed being on stream. It's been a minute. Thank you, brother. It's good to be back. Hey, team, let's go, Danny. Bitcoin in 4-year market cycle definitely changing. Tricky times for all. Definitely, I do think that the tide is turning. We're getting more in line with traditional markets, and there are good things that come with that, right? Is that you don't have those long drawn out. If that happens, you don't have those long drawn out bear markets. So we'll see. It's still early, too early to tell. But for now, we have good times ahead, it looks like. And I do think that we're going to get a nice alt season. How big that alt season is, we're going to find out. Is it more muted and selective, or is it balls to the wall alt season that we've had in previous runs? We've got Bitcoin dominance down to 62%. It was at 65.5 short while ago. And keep in mind, we had a nice pump in this market December, January. If you remember what that was like, right? Alts were moving. Mcade went up to 5 cents. Keep in mind that Bitcoin dominance at that time went from 60% to just 55%. If we get Bitcoin dominance even back down to the 50s, you're going to see nice movements in these coins, hundreds of percent. Zoom out. This is what happened to Bitcoin dominance. This is like a balls to the wall alt season. When it dropped from 70% down to 40, all right, in May of 21. So, back in December, if you look at the altcoin, this is alt season. Back then, we were in that alt season territory on the Altseason index. We got above the 75. My portfolio went up quite a bit. Devve didn't pump at that point, but Mcade was pumping hard and some others. Not everything was pumping though, right? But that was just off of Bitcoin dominance dropping from 5 percentage points from 60 to 55. All right, so now we're from 65 to 62. Even if we get down to the 50s, you're going to see a nice bounce in alts. But that real balls to the wall alt season comes when Bitcoin dominance goes even lower. Money flows into other assets. Ethereum typically leads the way. And Ethereum has now, over the last month, weeks, has been outperforming Bitcoin, which is what we've been waiting for. Up 50% on the 7-day, almost 70% on the month. Nice move for Ethereum. Like I said earlier, went to 2,700 today. So nice move for Ethereum. Hopefully Ethereum keeps up that energy, because that's been the signal. That's been, Ethereum has been the leader of alts, and we'll see what happens. Bullish, like I said, news today. Coinbase joining the S&P 500 is a big moment for crypto, and it just continues. We continue to get validation this cycle, and this is another sign of that. All right, so this isn't going. This space isn't going anywhere. The sector's not going anywhere. Another piece of bullish news today: annual inflation rate hit 2.3% in April. So this beat expectations. This came in today. This is the lowest it's been since 2021, right? So the Fed has said that they would lower rates on sustained lower inflation, which the tariffs threatened, right? And Trump kind of threw a wrench into that. Or if unemployment spiked, which it hasn't yet. Now, rates are still scheduled for, there's the prediction on FedWatch for the next meeting in June is still a pause. 91% chance of a pause. July, 33%, 34% chance of a 25-point cut. September, 50% chance of a cut. This stuff changes by the day, but hopefully we get some rate cuts in the second half of this year. And you couple that with, now the stock market being back on track. And, we have all the makings of what we want. And keep in mind that this is the stock market over the last 5 years. It's continued to climb a wall of worry, right? Back since the low in 2022, it's gone up and to the right with some big pullbacks in between, the tariff scare right here. But even before that, we had other scares. All right. But, I've been hesitant to call this market done, right? I've stayed bullish on it. I thought that this tariff stuff would pass. And sure enough, there's been a pause with China and the market's recovering. And once, the S&P is going to break out and hit new all-time highs over the next few months. Same with NASDAQ, same with Bitcoin, I believe. And I think altcoins are going to follow suit. So we're well positioned to get what we came for. And I am feeling bullish. And it's amazing how fast that happens, right? How quickly sentiment changes. So hang in there. Cash says, I held like 12 coins, decided to get rid of half of them, which I weren't sure of. Now I have 6 I am the most happy with. Yeah, and that's a good strategy. There's really no perfect. People ask, how many coins should I? There are different strategies. There are a lot of people who like to be spread out, right, to cast a wide net. And then there are people who have high levels of conviction and want to be concentrated in those. So I lean more towards this cash. I also consolidated a bit. I sold off my Naka and put that into maybe Metacade, I forget. But I sold that. I sold my spec into Top Hat and reshuffled a little bit. Ron in the house. What's good, brother? Got to get Ron back on. Frank did the same. But this is the kind of leg that breaks it. Yep. Not first try, but I do think this leg breaks it. Yeah, I agree with that. You also don't get, Bitcoin's tied to the broader market more so than ever. And you typically don't get, where was I? You don't get a breakdown like this of the S&P and this sort of recovery only for it to break back down, right? This market's going higher. And when you get towards the end of a bull run, right, and this has been going for quite some time, at some point over the next year, the party's going to come to a close, I would assume. But when you get towards the end, that's when the fireworks, that's when the riskiest assets explode. So we'll see how it plays out. Yes, drop a like, people. I decided to get rid of projects which didn't move back then. Ivers, it seems like this is the start of a major alt season. So many positive news now. Only one we miss is start of QE. Yeah, and it's interesting because I'm not even sure. There are different types of QE. Like, the Fed has said they're not going to move with QE. Then people talk about stealth QE. It's interesting to note that we had a big run in alts in 2023 into 2024 during a tightening phase. So I think this market's going to move regardless. And we shall see. I had a similar thinking. Yep. Bring on that full crazy alt season. Yes, sir. I didn't go for Grogu. I saw it and I wanted to, but I forgot. I'm out of the habit of going for drops. Late joining. Let me cover this. I think the next few months are going to be bullish. I would expect pullbacks along the way, right? I do think Bitcoin's going to break out, might take a few attempts to break out, but I do expect Bitcoin to, break into new all-time high territory at some point soon. And I think that we're going to get a run in alts over the next few months. Now, I've talked about the 2017 cycle and how there was a run up in alts in May and June, right? Up in through May and June. And then there was a big cool off period. I think I've shown this. Let me go to full screen. Hold on. Just give me 1 second. I don't know. Anyway, this is the 2017 cycle. This is XRP as an example, but I studied like a bunch of different alts, and they're all pretty similar. And in that cycle, we had sideways and down for 13 months. Okay, heading into from 2016 into 2017. That shifted in around February. All right, and it started an uptrend that lasted about 10 weeks. All right, in those 10 weeks, XRP did an 8x. Augur, this other shitcoin I looked up, it was random. I just picked like one in the top 200. This, over the course of 18 weeks, from February through June, did an 8.6x. And then they went down and sideways for 6 months into the end of the year. Right? XRP similar. It did 10 weeks, 8x, downwards, sideways for 6 months. I think went down about 50%. And then at the end, it did a 16x. My thinking has been that we have a run now, in May, June, this time of year, a sell-off, and then come back at the end of the year for fireworks. We'll see how it plays out. My thinking was also that this would start a few months ago. It didn't happen. So we'll see. But yeah, I do think we get a pump in alts, new all-time high in Bitcoin, a pullback, and then we come back at the end of the year. Cass with the sass, what's good? It's good to be back. Appreciate you. Yeah, Cash thinks the cool off will come in July. It'll be interesting. We'll have to watch. But the main thing is be prepared for all outcomes, right? And I think by this point, we've been through a lot of shit. Thank you. Thanks to you and Ron for getting me into Metacade. Accumulated. Wow, 15 million. Damn, brother. It's a lot of Metacade. Let's talk about Mcade. You got a lot. I'm super bullish on Mcade, as you all know. But this is the roadmap. They released this roadmap recently, and Mcade has just positioned themselves perfectly for this part of the cycle. They've done pretty much everything right. They've just been head down, building, grinding, communicating clearly, effectively, and just continuing to push forward. During, whether market conditions were bullish or bearish, they've been consistent, right? Recently, they dropped Max, their mascot, which I think was a really smart move. It helps with marketing. It helps with community engagement. It's an original character that, I'm sure will be in some games on their in the Metacade ecosystem. So I thought that was a really good move coming out with Max. They coined their first piece of Max content on Zora, which is something that Jesse Pollock, who, the founder of Base Chain, is big into. Jesse Pollock bought 60% of that first piece of coined content. So they've really been leaning into and becoming leaders on Base, and that they've been rewarded for it because they're one of 6, I believe, projects that were chosen for their own layer 3 app chain, which just, gives them a whole new utility case for the token. and opens up a whole bunch of avenues that are going to be that we're going to be like learning about and seeing over the coming months. So they've done everything absolutely right. Russ has been everywhere. He went to Dubai. They've been at every major crypto event, networking, building, relationships and connections. So I expect big things from Metacade. And if you haven't seen their roadmap for the next quarter, they're going to have their open edition NFT collection. I'm sure that's involving Max. They're going to expand the website, which they've already reworked. They're going to have Farcaster mini apps coming out, App Chain. They're coming out with a new Gangs of Metacadia. All this stuff is going to be on the App Chain, which they've branded the Arcade. So, they've really been everywhere and done everything, I think, right. Even positioning themselves in the AI sector, right? If you go to their website, the first thing that pops up, the home of gaming and AI on base. So I'm really excited about them. It's good to see that Metacade pump over the last week. And it held up really well. It held up better than, I think, most gaming tokens. Here we go. Boom. I would expect Metacade to break all-time highs and smash through it. And if we get a, real alt season, that balls to the wall alt season, I think they'll be rewarded, as will the holders. So my guy here holding 15 million, I think you're going to do quite well. Do you think Hat can come back? Yeah, I do think Hat can come back. I actually added more Hat. It got hit, it was one of the AI agents that popped off hard in, when was that? January, right? After virtuals exploded, Hat exploded, did like 100x, got to $100 million market cap. I started buying probably down here, and it even got decimated from there, along with the rest of the market. But I was watching them. I've been in their Telegram. They've been building, and they've recovered. They're up from the low over 100%. They went as low as, I want to say, 2.2 or something like that, 0022. And they have these bursts up. So I think that Hat will be fine. I think it will come back. I don't know if it hits that, goes back to that all-time high, but I do think it's going to rebound. It does move with the market, right? When the market is, things get bullish, when Solana's pumping, it does move with the market. So I think that Hat's going to do well. And they've done, they've continued to work building an AI agent that can integrate into, I think, email to scan through and, make things more efficient. They've got on Binance, I believe, Binance Smart Chain, not Binance, the exchange, but they're on like Solana and Binance Smart Chain. So they've been continuing to build, and I like them. Do you think this run could go into 2020? Yes. I do think the run could go into 2026. Really hasn't even started yet. Like I said before, I can see us pumping into May, June, cool off, and then another big pump end of the year into 2026, right? And a lot of alts in the 2017 cycle, some alts topped in January 2018. We'll see. The one thing I learned is be prepared for multiple outcomes and don't marry any outcome. Take profits on the way up. Don't try to time the top, and you'll be well positioned. I think psychology is the most important part of succeeding in this game. And that means, if Top Hat were to get back into like this range, I might sell a little, and sell on the way up. Because some of these coins, there are people with a lot of them, right? There are people with big holdings, and they could dump the price quickly. And so the idea is you don't want to get dumped on. And, as fast, look how fast, this went up, man, from December 1st to August 6th. It did, I don't know what that is. It's a big move. All right, but, it tends to move fast. I think there are a lot of good value right now. I think Mcade is still a good value, even though it's gone up 100%. I think, you always want to try to buy on pullbacks, but understand that things might not pull back as much as you expect. See, Aitech is really ripped from the bottom of, it went down to, I think, 2 cents. It's up to 6. I think Devve is a good value right now, actually. At 62 cents. Because Devve is something that bottomed out at 14 cents. And so it's up 4x, right? Something like that, from its bottom. It had a run when other things weren't running, and then it kind of held up a bit better. And so it wasn't quite as oversold, and so it's not quite moving yet. But I think Devve at 62 cents, a $55 million market cap. The team is done everything. They're everywhere also. They were in Dubai at Token 2049, meeting with, investors, partners, and Coles. They partnered recently with a bank in France. And they still have that. They're rumored to be partnered with, and they hinted at it again that it's NASDAQ. We'll see. I mean, it's kind of like everyone expects NASDAQ now. If it's not NASDAQ, it might be a bit of a letdown if it's not, but that news hasn't dropped yet, and their exchange hasn't gone live yet. Those are big catalysts that are coming. Let's see what other news they dropped. Here we go. I think RWA is an absolutely rip, man. Here we go. Unlock a new era of public service with Devve. Governments can deploy customizable blockchain-powered voting for fair elections, tamper-proof notary services for legal documents, improved data storage and access systems, and secure digital IDs for seamless KYC. I think that this is timed perfectly with this cycle. Specifically, when you look at, Treasury. Now, here we go. SEC, Paul Atkins says his priority is to develop national regulatory framework for crypto. The commissioner, Hester Pierce, says tokenization cannot reach its full potential without legal clarity. We're moving closer and closer to tokenization of all assets. Robinhood is talking about putting their exchange on the blockchain. They partnered with, I believe, Bitstamp. So now we're going to get this regulatory clarity over the next 6 months, I think, or at least get closer to it. RWA, I think, is primed. So I think Devve's undervalued. Thanks, Pixel. Appreciate you, brother. It's good to be back. When will I start selling? So I promised myself I'm going to sell when my portfolio hits a certain number. If I'm up like another 75% of my total portfolio, I'm going to sell a small amount, and then just sell, not smell, incrementally. But I'm definitely going to be taking profits. If you don't take profits, the market will take your profits. That's the way we've played this game before. We know how it works. So it's better to sell too soon and get out with profits than not to sell at all, right? I'm not talking about selling everything, right? But take those profits. It also alleviates anxiety of when do I sell? Because, if I have certain goals, I have certain financial goals, certain things I want to accomplish this cycle. And if I start accomplishing them and ticking them off as I go, it just relieves that anxiety, right? So this is my mentality. I'll be selling on the way up and we'll see. I'm not locking in like, sell at this price, but we'll see. I'll announce here. I'll talk about here when I'm selling some stuff. But I wanted to talk about what else? Another thing I wanted to talk about is I get DM'd a lot about OMI. So I told people that I would cover it because I'm an OG OMI homie. So OMI's at a $57 million market caps. Triple, it's struggling at, down here, 0002. It went down as low as like 1.8 or something. It's been kind of on a perennial. The chart looks, pretty bad. It doesn't react. When other things pump, it kind of lags the market. Pumps that it's had have not been sustained, even when the market was bullish. So it's been rough for OMI. And, I think that they've done some things well this cycle. So I'll start with that stuff. I like their move to base. Thought it was a smart one. They have delivered on some long-awaited things that the community was waiting for. Viviverse finally came out. Omida NFT finally came out, right? So they delivered on a couple of big ticket items that the community was promised and wanted. They got in a couple of exchanges, Mcade, no tier ones, but they're not going to get on any tier ones. All right, they're not. The volume's not there. It's not in a sector that's hot. It's not like AI or anything like that. It just doesn't check the boxes, right? It's not getting on Binance. But they've delivered some stuff, right? So that stuff is good. They still have a strong community. They still have the IP. The issue with OMI, and the biggest issue, in my opinion, is that they're last cycle's coin, right? They're a coin that was hot last cycle in a sector that's not hot this cycle. And the way alts work is, they're driven by pumpamentals and hype. And there was a ton of hype in the NFT space last cycle. And there's not now. And no one's looking to buy. No one's out there saying, let me look up some NFT coins. Let me look up some coins tied to digital collectibles, right? If you look at, when people ask, like, what are you looking to buy? What's good in AI? You're looking at certain sectors. This is how people find coins, right? And no one's looking in old sectors. No one's, I don't see anyone saying like, I got to pick up some mana or sand. To me, that's the biggest issue, bigger than, the things that people FUD them about, right? Because in my opinion, fundamentals, pumpamentals trump everything in this altcoin space. So that's one thing. Vivi needs more users. Vivi's been bleeding users since its height, it's bled users. And it doesn't matter, you can have OMI to NFT, but if there's no volume there, you're not burning a bunch of OMI. And, I think an unintended consequence of OMI to NFT is people are now using OMI as an exit strategy from Vivi, right? If there are people who hold a lot of Vivi stuff and they're looking to get out, they're looking to circumvent the 10% fee, cash out fee, they might sell for OMI and then cash out that OMI. So it has an unintended consequence of potentially adding sell pressure. which I think that people, they wonder, why is it not pumping? So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is you've got big bag holders from last cycle who, look to, I have the wrong chart up. Big bag holders from part of being a second cycle coin is you have big bag holders who, look to move on after pumps. And that's partly why they haven't been able to sustain, right? They'll have these pumps and then it'll sell off. And it's been like that. Even when the market was bullish and they had catalyst, they would pump and then sell off, pump, sell off. So it's hard for them to sustain it. So that's basically my thoughts on it. And then the other stuff with Omi and Vivi is like the trust issues. It's hard when there's not a lot of awareness of this project outside of the community, right? If you go into the broader crypto space, it's not on people's radars. And a big part of the community, there are trust issues there. And two of the people that they trusted were Mitch and the new co-CEO, Ben Rose, who now after 6 months, he was brought on just 6 months ago to help clean up communication. And now, the tweet was put out that they're going back to their original model. Whether that's they're cutting costs or not, I don't know. But those are my thoughts. I think that for me, I think there are better options. I hope it pumps and does well. And it's crypto, so anything could happen, right? Maybe you get this extended, towards the end, you get like some big move back into NFTs and something happens with Vivi and they catch a spark again. But, that's kind of hopium, right? That's not like a fundamental reason to move back in for me. So those are my thoughts there on Omi. I haven't touched it recently, Harish. I need to go back in. But all my old, and I was looking for it to put up this stream, but I'm a little unorganized right now. Couldn't find it. But all my old like price targets or potential price targets that things could hit, things that what I believed a few months ago, I still believe. In a full-blown alt season, you could see strong projects get, to those billion-dollar valuations. If we get a $6 to $9 trillion total market cap on this whole space, which I believe is still in the cards. The team refuses to talk about the end market, the token. Yeah, it's been rough. It's been real rough. They have, I think, a video scheduled soon, next week. So see what they say there. After a certain point, you can't hide behind regulatory clarity. When you now have a pro-crypto administration in America, they can no longer hide behind the regulatory clarity thing, right? They backtracked on a lot of the utility, the VVverse stuff, utility, the land sales, because of regulatory clarity. So they can't use that anymore. The lawsuit is also over, which is a good thing. But that's also been kind of this excuse of, well, they're waiting for the lawsuit to pass. Now the lawsuit is over. Now we're closer to regulatory clarity than we've ever been. And so it's time to reward Omi holders and, do everything you can to put it in a good position. But, we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see what their communication looks like moving forward without now Ben Rose, who was doing a good job, I thought, of getting in there and jumping on channels and, being as transparent as possible. Jordan Cameron thinks we top out at around 10 trillion, similar to what you just said. I made a spreadsheet of what, like extrapolating what a $9 trillion market cap would look like for crypto. For instance, like the top 500 coins, where they would sit at market cap wise. I'm going to fine tune it and then we'll talk about it. But the way I had it, I think like the top five, I would see like the top 500 coins at a $500 million market cap if we were to get there. Right. And like conversely, like last cycle, yeah, it'd be double last cycle. So last cycle, there were 275, hit 500 million. I think easily, 500, maybe potentially 750 coins. So you're talking about top 750 coins at a $500 million market cap, right? And I think, again, a lot of us hold Metacade. Where does Metacade stand in the... This is like a good thought exercise. It's at 778, number 778. So if this were to like hold its position at number 778, say, right, and just be consistent with the market, and we got this sort of $9-10 trillion market cap, Medicaid at $500 million market cap is almost a 20x from here, right? Just a thought, a thought experiment. That would put it at 40 cents, but we'll see how big it gets. But I do think that I'm on board with Jordan Cameron. I think that it's not hard to get there. $9 trillion market cap, it seems like a huge number. That's Nvidia, Apple, and like Amazon, right? And right now we're at like I want to say a 3 trillion. What's total market cap? I want to say 3.4 trillion. I think it's definitely possible. What I don't want to see is, shitty meme coins come out and suck liquidity out of the market. But, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Hopefully people have learned, but they've never learned, do they? All right, you're still going to get, it's pretty predictable. You're still going to get coins coming out of nowhere, pumping, and people getting wrecked because there's, greed enters the market and people want to quick flip. I have about a handful of collectibles, not many. I started buying more in, when was it? 2020, what, I forget. When VVverse was close, I bought a Todd. I started buying some stuff in anticipation of VVverse. I got very bullish again, and then it got drawn out for months. And I sold my stuff and I put it into crypto. Yeah. And then that kind of pissed me off because the VVverse thing pissed me off because I got bullish again, right? And I was going to start collecting stuff, and I thought it was, it'd be a good way to engage. And then they said it was close, and then 6 months later, like you heard nothing. And then they said it was 2 weeks away. And then a year later, there was still nothing, right? And then finally it came out, and Dan Crothers said, oh, we weren't even working on it really. We were busy with VV Comic app. And that kind of pissed me off because you said it was 2 weeks away. You said it was a fortnight away in November of 2023. You said it was 2 weeks away. And then, a year later, it still wasn't out. And you said we weren't really working on it. And so that was the last time I bought really collectibles. But who knows? Maybe one day I'll get back into it. Right now, I'm just strictly focused on crypto and altcoins. Yeah, this is a problem when you delay things too long. And what's worse than hate is apathy, is people losing interest. Once people lose interest, they move on. It's a wrap. And so that's how they kind of like lost me as a customer. So what AI coins am I stacking? Right now, I'm kind of done stacking, but holding, just because, I've loaded my bags, and I kind of move things around more so than stack at this point. But Top Hat, holding AI tech still. What else? I sold my spec, but I'm holding it I bought it from my father-in-law back, when it was $1.20. But yeah, most of it's in hat and AI tech. Those two. Phoebe doesn't want me back, Danny. They don't. What else we got here? Let me check my list. Otherwise, I added a lot of Relio network was something that I started buying at 11 cents, went to $3. It's RWA. The team doesn't quite communicate great, but I think it's in the right sector. And they've continued to work, though, right? And they've continued to get things out. So they've recovered quite well. They went down to as low as 15 cents. We're up to 36 cents. That's one of my big holdings. Zeus, something that Ron put me onto, is Bitcoin. Something that it's a project that brings Bitcoin liquidity onto Solana. Let's see what else. Those are two that I'm really bullish on. Yeah, Rio is going nice. And the thing about Rio is it moves. Like when the market moves, Rio moves, right? So if we get a huge move up, I think Rio will do well. All-time high of $4 when it first came out back in 2020. It's I think it's now the only second cycle coin that I hold, but it came out like towards the end of the cycle. It was kind of new. And they've continued to build, hit $3 when RWAs were pumping. The daily close was $2.37, but it hit $3 that day. So I added a lot of Rio between 15 cents and 35 cents. I actually started buying on the way down. What is the big announcement from Devve? What do you think? What potential does it have? So the big announcement from Devve, I believe, is a NASDAQ partnership. This is what, it's been hinted at. I think I didn't watch it. I was in Vegas when they had an interview in Austin. Their community manager had an interview. I believe it was him. And he said they're basically partnered with the biggest financial exchange, which is NASDAQ. So we'll see. It's got big potential, I think. Let's pull it up. Hit an all-time high of close to $2. Spiked when it first came out. The good thing is, the tokenomics sucked at first because there were a lot of token unlocks, monthly token unlocks. All right, but that drove price all the way down. There was a lot of fear around it. People were selling. It got way oversold, all the way down to 14 cents. Once rumors started about the partnership, it spiked all the way back to $1.78. And it's been holding around here. $56 million market cap. You know, it potentially, I think it could go into the billions, but will it? I don't know. But it's got that type of potential. They're launching their exchange this year, supposedly, I think July or so. They started their referral program, so it's getting closer. I know they've been linking up with Kohl's, trying to push content out. So they're getting closer. They plan to tokenize, stocks, any real world asset, and also build blockchains for banks and whatever, other traditional institutions. So it's one of those that has potential to hit, billions in market cap. Does it happen? We'll find out. But they have a world-class team. They're all over the place also. They were in Dubai. And now they're just launching their product, right? So they have catalysts ahead of them, big partnerships ahead of them. Nice. You bought at 14 cents. Yeah. I bought a bunch at 14 cents. I should have bought more in hindsight, but I have a nice bag of Devve. It's my biggest bag. My biggest bags right now, they fluctuate between Devve and Mcade. And my third is Rio, which is now up to 36 cents. And Harris wanted to buy it, but he snoozed. So I think the partnership would look like NASDAQ helping them with their exchange, or yeah. And NASDAQ has also disclosed in their financial meetings, their quarterly meetings, that they were looking to partner with different blockchains, right? So the NASDAQ is looking to tokenize and run 24/7, whether that's on Devve, who knows? But it'll be a good partnership for sure. If Devve truly announces a partnership with NASDAQ, it will instantly pump to a $1 billion market cap. It could happen fast. There are no certainties, and I think that's something that we've learned in this game, is that there are no certainties. But you look at Ondo, right, which is a $3.3 billion market cap. It went from 59 cents to $2 in the space of 4 weeks. Things can move fast. And this is kind of the biggest RWA story of the cycle here. A lot about Ondo. The Trumps, they were at, they helped sponsor the Trump crypto ball or whatever. Things can move fast. We know this. So hopefully it happens with Devve. I'm, patiently waiting. Been on for about an hour. I'm going to be back at it again sometime this week. I'm going to get Ron on here and shake his rust off. I want to thank everyone for coming through. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. And it's good to be back streaming. I will be back soon. Peace, guys.